Welcome back, folks. So we are looking at trying to understand some statistical concepts which we will be using over and over again for the rest of the course by sort of using this portfolio construction as a premise, right? So basically, uh, yeah, it's good to know a little bit of the math behind it, regardless of whether you're applying it to your investment portfolio or applying it to some other applications at work or in your life, right? So, and I think this gives you a better incentive to sort of at least dive a little bit deeper into some of these concepts, right? So, it might appear to be a little bit foreign if you have not been exposed to any of this math, but as you have seen in some of these videos, it's a pretty simple math, but it's good to spend some time on it, right? So I guess what did we start out with? We started out with trying to design a portfolio which gives you good returns or decent returns, right? But also minimizes the volatility, which is the standard deviation, right? So these are mean returns, average returns. We looked at it for different types of investments, right? And there is some volatility, which is standard deviation associated with that. So the goal is, and you know that you just can't shoot for high returns without actually watching out for volatility, because what we have seen is that you might actually end up earning more returns, but sometimes that volatility can kill the eventual value of your investment, right? So you want to have a balance, and you want to have a balance between the risk and return, right? And that's the whole concept behind mean variance optimization, right? So, so say, and the way to sort of optimize for variance, right? To optimize for volatility or standard deviation is to mix and match assets, right? So, what we are trying to sort of take advantage of is a concept called correlation, okay, which is basically a normalized covariance term, okay, and we're going to talk about that, okay. So, uh, so we're going to use this mean variance optimization technique, okay, to come up with a portfolio which is just right, okay, for your given situation, okay. So so say you mix and match investments in varying proportion and you get portfolios. So these dots are individual portfolios, okay, with risk return profiles like below, right? So you have return on the y-axis, risk on the x-axis, and green and red are say two portfolios, right? Of course, for the same return, okay, you would be crazy to pick this portfolio in red, right? So if you had an option between green and red, why would you pick red, right? You're getting the same return, so you want the least amount of volatility for that return. So of course you will not pick the red portfolio, right? Okay, so that's one scenario. Okay, let's look at another scenario, right? Between these two portfolios, between this green and red, of course you are, for the same level of volatility, okay, of course you are going to pick a portfolio which is the highest return portfolio, right? um, so that's one flavor, okay. You pick, okay. Or say you're 22 and just out of college, right? And in your first job, trying to decide with what investments to populate your 401k with, right? And 401k is sort of a retirement plan. You will retirement plan type you're going to get access to when you start working, wherever you're working, right? You might actually get access to it, you might not, right? But it's one of the mechanisms where you can start saving and sort of deploying some money for your future, right? You could and should try to go all out on the risk spectrum, right? Because you're 22, you have ample amount of time, you don't have any financial capital, but you have a lot of human capital ahead of you, right? So you are going to work for X number of years or decades out in the future, right? And you're going to slowly build your financial capital to a point where the human capital would probably be depleted, right? It depends on what stage of your life in. So you would slowly deplete your human capital, and you're going to incrementally increase your financial capital, hopefully, right? And because you are sort of putting money through each and every pay period, every paycheck, right? Assuming you're working for an employer, right? You would want to pick a portfolio which is far out on the risk spectrum, okay, but also far out on the return spectrum, right? Because that's going to give you some volatility, actually very high volatility, but also very high return, right? Or say you are on this left hand side, or you could be in retirement, right, where you have pretty much exhausted your human capital, right, and are sitting on a boatload of financial capital that you would slowly use to sort of extract to live on, right? So you'd rather own the portfolio shown in green on the left, right? This one, right? So you don't want a lot of volatility. You want decent returns, and that's what you're going to do to pick that portfolio. Okay. So if you look at it, right? If you look at this thing, you start to see that there is this line, there is this curve that forms. Okay, and that's what it's called efficient frontier. Okay, and that's what Harry Markowitz sort of devised, right? And what this means is that any portfolio which is on that curve is the right portfolio for that risk return profile. Anything which is below that curve is, of course, a suboptimal portfolio, so you would not want to pick that, right? And that's the whole game behind this mean variance optimization concept, okay. And of course, you mitigate portfolio risk through diversification, a process of combining investments that react differently in different events in the global economy, right? So that is, you want to own a portfolio of investments where some zig while others zag, right? At any given time, and how we get there. So how we get there is we have to sort of dive a little bit deeper into this covariance and correlation stuff, right? And we briefly alluded to correlation when we were doing some causation versus correlation. So correlation is going to be used pretty much everywhere in the data analytics world, right? So this is a concept you want to sort of get a hang of, right? And so that you can use it wherever you need to use it, right?